Good evening and Happy New Year, folks. Welcome to the Check It Out show, one-off special for 2025 with me, Al, and him, Handy Anderson.
Do you know, I've missed these as well, Al. It's just been so good. I mean, again, the intro videos are always so good. Thanks so much to the team for putting those together. And thank you to everyone who's joined us for this special one-off episode. Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it, Al?
It's been a long time, but it's nice to have a good reason to bring back our little creative chats, although I'm slightly nervous about the likely dad jokes that are going to follow. But we have got a cracking lineup tonight of all sorts of different vendors that I know will be of interest to different people listening. And as always, this is a great way of sharing and amplifying across all the different listeners and readers of different solutions. And what better way to start the pre-bet excitement?
Yeah, absolutely. To coin a phrase you use yourself quite often, Al, you have literally a cornucopia of different vendors coming on and sharing about what it is that they do that makes them so special. And we will be asking some quite probing questions, finding out what makes them tick, what makes them good, and what reasons you might have then for wanting to come and visit them, and finding out more about their solutions when you visit Bett. Because God, there's so many different people you can go and see and choose to go. Why would you want to go and see these people? Well, hopefully we'll answer those questions with this show. But we're there at Bett as well, aren't we, Al? And Net Support. So what we got in store for us? What are we doing at Bett this year?
Well, I think the first bit of news is I did actually trademark the phrase cornucopia at the end of 2024. So you now owe me £7.50. So thank you for that, Mark. That's a good way to start. Yeah. Listen, we've been going to Bett for coming on must be the best part of 30 years now, as you know, Mark, because you're a big part of our annual journey to the show and our offer there. This year we have our usual very prominent investment in the Bett experience. We know there are lots of strands and lots of challenges going on in education at the moment. So for us, we're going to be highlighting our new and continuing to evolve cloud-based solution, lots of new functionality around safeguarding and keeping our learners safe online, extending our flexibility and support to support the digital classroom, whether that's monitoring, supervision, and also the tools to make sure that with more technology in the school, we actually can manage and make sure those devices are available to use. Because we know something you talk about a lot, Mark, it's about building teacher confidence that the technology will be there to work as expected when the lesson starts. Alongside that, we're really lucky. We've got such a lovely customer base over so many years that for us, first and foremost, Bett is just a chance to catch up and meet with peers. And you and I are very much advocates of this, but we are a learning business. Many of our ideas for improvements, enhancements, the way we take our products forward are from making those opportunities and time to sit and listen to customers, people with great ideas, hearing about those pain points. So absolutely, Bett for us is definitely a biggie. SH50, similar position as we've been in for the last few years. Do come along, but we're also going to be capturing insights in a more formal way with media and video and other bits as well, Mark.
Yeah, we've got some fantastic guests coming onto the stand. We'll be recording those live on the stand in our sort of media corner. But if you want to come along and say hello, I mean, as Al said, we love to hear from you, whether you're a customer or not. It's all about networking and catching up with people we've known for a long time, and then picking some of those things that we think might just help our products or help schools in general. One of the things that I'm lucky to do is still get to work with lots of schools wearing my ICT evangelist hat. And there's no better experience to go into a school and working with them being a client of Net Support, not knowing that I work at Net Support, and them saying great things about our products is fantastic. So it's a real side benefit of all those sorts of experiences. But yeah, really looking forward to sharing about the developments in Classroom.cloud and safeguarding, becoming an even bigger and quite rightly so feature in many schools' thinking. And it's great that our products, help support that in so many different ways. It can really help sort of make the difference. So yeah, please do come along, SH50. But it isn't all about us this evening. We got, as I say, a smorgasbord, to insert another word. Look out, I might just have to trademark that one for myself.
Thank you.
Oh, he's been front loading. Look, no, really excited to hear from everybody today. But one of the first people we're going to hear from today is someone who runs an organisation that supports so many different businesses in and around education technology and other sort of suppliers into education. Al, did you want to do a little introduction for our first guest onto the show this evening?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I am keen to. BISA is an organisation that, lots of different strands here. NetSport have been a member for many, many years and have seen both the benefit and the real impact of being part of the BISA community. So there you go. I've made the name pretty clear. I've also been very blessed to spend the last few years as chair of the BISA EdTech group. And the crazy fools have just re-elected me for another term, but it's an amazing community. And this is what tonight and what we try and do is all about, that community. We're stronger together. And that all comes to that central hub with the BISA team, the British Education Suppliers Association. And so, yeah, we are really, really fortunate that the lovely Julia is here to tell us a little bit more and have a natter so we can kick off our Bett special. Good evening, Julia. And I know you've got a bit of a dodgy voice, so we're going to forgive you if you do any Barry White moments for us.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm one of the many that have caught the sort of hacking cough over the Christmas period. So please excuse me for that. But thank you. That was a fantastic introduction. And actually, listening to the two of you talking about Bett, that's my experience of Bett. That it's a fantastic opportunity to meet and catch up with peers, but also to listen and learn from teachers who are visiting. So BISA, as you said, is the British Educational Suppliers Association. So we're a membership organisation. We represent around 400 companies in the UK who provide services and products to schools. So that's everything from paper, pencils, playground equipment, furniture, through to EdTech. And about half of our members are EdTech providers. So a huge number of them will be exhibiting at Bett. BISA actually founded Bett 40 years ago. It's our 40th iteration this year. So we have a long association with the show, even though we don't own it anymore. It is now owned by Hive, but we work alongside them. So we're very much part of that infrastructure and absolutely love Bett every year for that opportunity to get out and to meet people. And the reason why your listeners might want to come and see us is we are the information point for the show. So we have quite a large stand, SJ30. Come and find us, and we can help facilitate connecting visitors to solutions that are on the shop floor. So obviously you've got the app to work from if you're working your way around Bett. But if you want a bit of advice, who's a good person to go to for an assessment solution, or can you point me in the direction of 3 or 4 companies that have worked with these types of schools, then we can provide a bit of background information and help walk people through the minefield of the floor plan to BISA members who are exhibiting, and just to help make those connections.
Thanks, Julia. I think a lot of people think of Bett as an opportunity, depending on what hat you're wearing, as an opportunity to generate leads, to generate business if you're a vendor. And that may well be one strand, and certainly is the case. But the real value is in networking and meeting peers, talking with the BISA team, finding out what research, what evidence, what trade opportunities there are to network with, find out from other organizations who've been on a similar journey. And the amount of time and pain that can save is huge. Apart from that, I'm very much an advocate, as you know, but I really want to encourage people, if you're new in the space, offering services, support, products, whatever it is, BISA is also a great opportunity to come chat with the team and find out how it could benefit your organization. There's a real strength in numbers and sharing and cross-pollination there. And at the same time, there is that learning aspect, isn't there? Which is, Bett first and foremost is a CPD event. Let's not forget it. We know there's a big exhibition conference there, but it's also about learning in lots of different ways. And there's also lots of gatherings around the Bett stand throughout the 3 days as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so absolutely. Do come and speak to us. So we have our membership team will be on hand throughout the event to either come and meet with vendors on their stands or to come and meet us on our stand. We also have a presentation space this year for the first time. So our stand has been redesigned, and we are showcasing some of the case studies from our members. So looking at how they've worked with schools to help with SEND, for instance, or what their MIS solutions might be, but very much from a case study point of view rather than just a sales presentation. So again, great to come and learn more about what's going on in the industry, and connect with people who are interested in those areas. And then, if you're an exhibitor or somebody who's got an idea and is looking to get started, either in the UK or internationally, because although BISA is a UK organisation, we have quite an international reach, come and speak to myself or to one of my colleagues, and we can talk to you about the way that BISA works, both in the UK and overseas, and how we can support companies to help you grow. We work alongside the Department for Business and Trade very closely, and particularly when we work overseas. And another one of our roles within the Bett show is to meet and greet ministerial delegations coming from overseas countries, and to then provide them with tours around the show. So you'll often see me walking with a group of sometimes dignitaries, but a group of people walking around, introducing them to vendors on their stand, showcasing all the amazing things that Education PLC has, UK Education PLC has, because UK education is so highly revered internationally. There are a lot of these, it's ministers, but it's also teachers from school groups overseas come to the UK, and they use Bett to gather ideas and to share experiences. And so part of our role is to make those introductions and facilitate those conversations.
Thanks, Julia. I think you're right. Yeah, some of the most innovative solutions we see come into education today come from teachers who've innovated from the classroom. And so if you are one of those, taking a case study of like, I don't know, Bruno Reddy, with his Timetable Rockstar, if you're somebody who's got a great idea and you're wondering about how you could take it to market or how you could actually develop that, please, do go and talk to the team from BISA, because they've been there and they can really help join the dots and make those connections for you and help you. And it's great that you've highlighted that as a place and people can go to, Julia, and not only for stuff in the UK. As we've seen ourselves, you attend events worldwide in Australia, Bangkok and Dubai. Recently, we saw you at the Guests event, for example, in Dubai, supporting lots of, early to market products, helping them sort of make those connections, do their research, and sort of make their way within the marketplace. So, yeah, please do go along and see the BISA team on SJ30. Definitely somewhere to go and learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was just going to say, showcasing those startups. The startup zone again at Bett is a great place to go for that. And people like Bruno, I think they actually started in that Launchpad startup area, and we have a special type of membership just for those emerging companies that works alongside that, and we're there to help support those companies as they get cracking. But there's always some fantastic ideas in that part of the show, so definitely go and look that up.
There's great minds think alike on that one. I was lucky enough to host the Startup Zone for a morning last year, and I'm doing the same on the Friday this year. And it is great because you get to just hear about inspiring new innovative ideas, companies at the start of their journey. And there's always fresh things. And what I was also going to add is make sure when you're wandering around the show and you do bump into vendors to keep an eye out for that BISA logo and mark on the stand as well. It's a great way of reassuring yourself of vendors who sign up to that sort of core common set of values and code of practice. Most of us wear it proudly on our stands somewhere prominently, so do keep an eye out as well. But if you get lost and you're not sure where to go, my tip is always head to the BISA stand, and you'll probably get a free cuppa or something as well. So it's well worth going over.
Do our best.
The meetup. Yeah. Julia, thank you as always. It's lovely to see you. Happy New Year again to you.
Thank you.
And thank you for kicking off tonight's show.
No problem. See you in a couple of weeks. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
That's a always great start to the show. Lovely to see you here again.
I always think of BISA as being very much the glue in the UK EdTech sandwich. And, it's easy to say, but consistently you'll always find that they're always behind the scenes supporting so many different organizations. And it surprises me when I meet EdTech companies on a journey that haven't figured out if you join it, you can really short circuit lots of different routes. Anyway.
It's funny you mentioned glue though, because I'd talk about them being a bit more like WD-40. and then they help sort of like grease the sort of the cogs
Well,
to help sort of make things turn and make things work for you. It's
we're going to have an analogy standoff here, aren't we, Mr. Anderson? That's probably not the
you and
format
your
of the
Swiss
show.
Army knives.
Now, I've no idea if our next guest is here or not. That's part of the fun of the Check It Out show. We hope in the waiting room behind the scenes, we have our first guest. We're slightly ahead of schedule, which is a miracle when Mr. Anderson and I get talking about stuff. But Mark, I don't know. You can see the queue of whether
I
we've
can
got our
see,
next
and I'm
guest
very pleased to say that our next guest, someone who works at a company, has got some fantastic features, and I'm fortunate enough to not only work with them, but to have. I was working recently at the Copenhagen International School at an international event with directors of EdTech from schools from all over the world coming over. And it was lovely over lunch to actually, a bit like a fly on the wall, hearing these directors talking about the impact this next product actually had in their schools, how it's transformed. They've gotten rid of some other things and brought in this particular product, and it's made a huge difference to workload, to assessment, to progress, all sorts of things. So I don't want to preempt things too much. I know you're involved with this company yourself as well in a few events coming up, which I hope you'll share about. But please welcome to the Checkout Show, Mr. Matt Fletcher from Toddle. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Al. How are you? Thank
Good
you so
evening.
much for having me.
You're very welcome.
Good to see
Great
you,
to
Matt.
have you.
Good to see you. Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks so much for having me. And yeah, super excited for Bett and yeah, to have a chat today.
Welcome to your first outing on the Check It Out show. Hopefully not your last, although Mark and I are now quite selective about when we do our Check It Out show specials. But it is great. Mark has obviously spoken very highly of you there. And as he's alluded to, I'm going to be jetting over to Dubai in a week's time to come and talk at Toddle Independent School Leaders Meetup in Dubai. And then we're also going to be doing something at the Lord's Cricket Ground in March. And we're all about being able to share best practice and ideas around vendors that are not just about what they have to offer, but are also about sharing best practice and insights. So you guys are a great example of that. We always have for this session, Matt, we have 3 key questions we're going to ask you. I'm going to put you on the spot, and then the little countdown clock might kick in at some point if you don't get to the point, but we'll roll with it. So I'll kick it off, and then Mark can dive in on the next one, which is a rather obvious one for those listening. Tell us in the best terms you can what Toddle is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So Toddle is an AI-powered learning management system that essentially covers all aspects of teaching and learning workflows for a teacher. So everything from curriculum planning to reporting, mark books, assessment, family communication, and all kind of within a single unified interface. So as a former teacher myself, my favorite thing is, it's in one place, but more importantly, it's a very interconnected ecosystem. I think one of the key challenges in my experience as a teacher is we often have very kind of siloed workflows within education. And the key part of Toddle is that it brings everything kind of all together under one very easy to use interface, essentially.
Okay, well, that's really useful and helpful. Thank you very much for sharing that, Matt. But the thing is, that there are other solutions that purport to do these sorts of things. So the next question, which helps us sort of dive a bit deeper into that, is what makes Toddle, what makes your solution different from others? What is your sort of USP? What makes you stand out?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me as a teacher, the kind of main thing is that it's incredibly easy to use and is intuitive. I think a lot of the solutions that we use in education are kind of enterprise solutions that we retrofit to education. But Toddle is kind of built by teachers for teachers. So it's a very easy to use interface. We also have, in terms of kind of what sets us apart, we have state-of-the-art customer support. And as a platform, it's very customizable to fit a school's specific needs. And then in terms of other things that really stand out for me is the integration with AI. So we've built in AI throughout the platform. And the key goal there is to save teachers time and release our teachers to do more creative kind of aspects of our jobs. There have been lots of studies that more than half of the teachers' workflow is administrative tasks, and this is where AI can really help kind of free up our teachers. So in terms of the AI throughout the platform, there aren't any learning management systems that have that kind of built throughout.
Yeah, one of the things, sorry, Al, one of the things that jumped out to me when I was sort of digging in and playing around with it was the report generation. It helps you you write the reports based upon previous assessments and things, didn't it? Could you share a little bit about that for a second? I thought it was a really lovely workload saving feature there, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of as an example of how the system's interconnected, if you, for example, set a kind of summative assessment, that will automatically populate in your mark book. And then when it comes time to do your reports, all of that will automatically populate within your reporting. And then throughout that, you can manually write your comments, or if you click, there's an AI generate button, and that will pull the data points and write a very specific report based on those data points within the platform.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Brilliant. So I interrupted you there, Al, as well. Sorry.
No, one of the joys of the Check It Out show is often when people share something, Mark and I have got very similar questions we want to ask, and so it's like, well, which one of us is going to dive in? We both have the advantage that we've seen the platform and are both fans. I certainly probably aligns to my technical competence, but I definitely am a fan of the ease of use and just the clarity of it. But I'm also interested, for those listening in, where do you see the most popular areas of the product that teachers align with? Is it the resource creation, the time saving at the front end, or is it on the analytics and the back end side?
That's a really good question. So I think it very much depends. I think, for our curriculum coordinators, having the overview of how your curriculums kind of map out is incredibly useful. And, it's a very difficult thing to do with, other platforms and juggling lots of different platforms. From a kind of teacher point of view, I think for me, the reporting is such a time saver. And when I was teaching, that was my kind of the bane of my life was reporting, because it's often not up to date when you do report, and it's such a time consuming progress. So I think it very much depends, but I think for me as a teacher, reporting is the really exciting part.
I could tell why Mr. Anderson would go straight to that. You see, he's got that. He can remember those challenges.
Those fun times, Mr. Kingsley.
Indeedy. Listen, you're obviously going to be at Bett. The last question we have, you've touched on some of the bits, but is how you best serve your audience. So, what's the experience for somebody saying, well, I'd like to check it out. I'd like to have a play with the product. Can they evaluate it, work their way through it? How do you provide support for schools that are considering it as a new solution?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for teachers, the main, Toddle exists to simplify education for teachers, for students, parents, and kind of everyone involved in education. So in terms of the kind of process there, so we do free trials if you do kind of want to check it out, and obviously we'll be at Bett on stand SN 72. In terms of the kind of teacher side of that, so I think by combining AI and having an interconnected platform, it saves a lot of teacher time. From the student point of view as well, so you can personalize learning pathways, and we've got a new feature called AI tutors, which is very exciting in terms of being able to create different pathways for each student. So as an example, if you're a maths teacher, you can create it's essentially a new assessment type. But if you're a maths teacher and you're teaching Pythagoras, one student might be confused with how to use the difference between a hypotenuse and other sides of the triangle, whereas another student might not understand, a square root. So it's able to give each student that personalized learning pathway. So we're very excited about the kind of AI tutor side of that. And then for parents, we're able to kind of create that kind of homeschool communication and give them up-to-date information on their students through the parent app.
That's really cool. I can see you've got 30 seconds left, so I'll just prompt you on one thing that I also overheard in conversations, and you mentioned it yourself, Matt, in your intro about about your support, and the colleagues were saying how brilliant support is and how open and responsive to quick fixes and what have you. Your team are. Could you share a bit more about that in the last sort of 10 seconds?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that is, one of the best things about Toddle is our kind of customer support, and we have Toddle buddies. So they are yeah, absolute superstars, and they are always on hand to kind of help schools, and that support is absolutely kind of state of the art.
Brilliant. Matt, just remind us of the stand number, as well as people can go to toddleapp.com.
Yeah, so toddleapp.com, and the stand number is SN72.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us, and we will
Cheers, Matt.
see
Thank you.
the team in 10 days' time.
Thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you, Bett. Thanks. Bye.
Cheers, Matt. Thanks.
Nice one to kick things off, Anderson.
Yeah, I'm sorry for jumping in at the end there as well, but I mean, a phrase that both of us say quite a lot in the EdTech space is about recognizing that, it's about having good relationships with schools and seeing things as being transactional, right? So it was so delightful to hear so many people saying how great the support was from Toddle. So I couldn't sit here and not bring it up as something.
No, it's a nice one. It's a differentiator, isn't it? It's easy to sell stuff. It's much harder to support and keep people happy. And that's the measure for many of the difference between good and frankly average or poor edtech companies. So no, lovely to hear. I mean, we know all the folks we've got on tonight are all good folks in the space, so it's always really nice. So we are moving along, and we've got our next folks joining us for the show.
We do, and a late join who's just flown in at the last second. I've just seen him come in into the studio. We don't just have Simon, we also have Tony. Welcome to you both.
For those people who've been under a rock and don't know what White Rose is all about, could you folks give everybody a bit of an introduction?
Yeah, Simon, are you happy if I do that bit?
Absolutely.
So yeah, nice to see everybody. Nice to meet everybody. So my name is Tony Staniff, founder of White Rose Education. We're mainly known as White Rose Maths, and that's a dog just come through the door if you're wondering what's happening. And it's been a real journey that we've been on over the last 7 or 8 years at White Rose. We're very known for our high quality materials. All of our resources are created teachers by teachers. I believe we're the most popular primary and secondary maths scheme across England at the moment. We've got lots of international usage as well. And we're just trying to make teachers' lives a tiny bit easier and a tiny bit, hopefully, simpler to use our resource in the classroom and everything. One of the things, though, that we have done over the last 12, 24 months is develop a bit of a digital product. And Simon, I think, is going to just touch on that for a few minutes and talk to you about the reasons why we've developed it and what a bit more about what it is. Okay, so I'll hand over to Simon now. But thank you, lovely meeting everybody. Thanks for allowing us to be on tonight.
Well, thanks, Tony. I'll lead straight on
Tony.
then, if that's okay. So our new product is White Rose Infinity, and what it is, it's an infinite question generator. And it's at the moment for key stages 1 and 2. We've just launched into key stage 1, actually, which is really exciting. We've had lots of questions around that, such as, how much will it be for key stage 1? And actually, we've just added that to the package so that those people who have already the key stage 2 Infinity are just getting key stage 1 Infinity, because we've had such great feedback on it and its use for teachers and in classrooms. And just a little bit on the rationale for why we did it. Like Tony said, our resources are really popular, both in the UK and worldwide. And it was interesting, actually, that you were just talking about maintaining relationships and sort of, keeping customers happy. And we listened to customers when they said to us, listen, we like your resources, but we'd like to be able to customize them. And also we'd like a little bit more fluency practice for mathematics for our children. So that's really the rationale for where this resource came from. We knew we wanted to do something in the digital space, and so you're able to complete these quizzes on digital devices, any browser. We've tried to make it absolutely as accessible as possible, so it doesn't matter what device you have, you can use our infinite question generator. But we also didn't want technology to be a barrier, so as well as being able to complete it using digital devices, we've also made it so that you can download any of our quizzes as a PDF as well. So a couple of different ways that people can access the product. It's self-service. The core product is self-service. People can just add it to their White Rose subscriptions. And when they do that, they can either create custom quizzes within the quiz studio. So there are questions available for every single small step at Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 for our primary maths schemes. And yeah, so I suppose that's an overview of what the product is, and I'll probably go into some more detail with any further questions.
Mark's probably got sensible questions. I'm sitting here thinking, to infinity, is the product called and beyond, or is that?
We try to steer clear of saying that for various reasons.
Go on, Mark, ask a grown-up question.
Well, I'm just going to reinforce what both Tony and Simon were saying as well, though, because actually your stand was opposite ours at Guess. And, you know, so many teachers were coming along and sort of trying to find out the latest updates, latest features, and trying to get the resources and bits and bobs off the stand. Sophie and the team were doing an amazing job. They were swamped. So I can reinforce what you're saying about the popularity of the product, not just across England but internationally as well. I wanted to jump in with the second question we asked our previous guest, because there are other maths products out there, right? I won't mention them because we haven't got time, because there's lots in the space. But what is it that makes White Rose different, apart from some of the USP you talked about, which some of them might claim as well, about made by teachers for teachers and all these sort of things? But what makes your solution different to others, Tony and Simon?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what makes us different, it's probably quite a combination of things. Like I said before, firstly, it's our product having no technology barrier, so that there's absolutely no reason why this can't be used within the classroom by teachers. Also, when we were designing it, we wanted to make sure that there was a really nice variation in the interactivity with the product. So when you're accessing these questions on digital devices, it's not just you're always putting numbers in on a keypad. Sometimes you are, because there's a place for that. But sometimes you're selecting answers, you're dragging things to sort things. There are things like interactive clocks, interactive number lines, interactive arrays where you have to shade different arrays in. There's just lots of different ways that you can interact with the different questions within our platform, so it doesn't feel very repetitive. One of the bits of feedback that we've had from schools is that children really enjoy the fact that they're doing lots of different things when they're in fact accessing the one quiz. Another thing that we think is quite good and makes it unique is that teachers can use it adaptively within lessons. One bit of feedback which I love, which I share with everyone, is one teacher telling us that within 40 seconds they'd fired up White Rose Infinity, found the very particular questions that they wanted their children to use, and then put that quiz to the children. 40 seconds, which we just thought was remarkably quick. Another thing that makes us unique, as you know, the other question generators out there, is that absolutely everything about this has been developed by us. So there's nothing white label about this whatsoever. So all of the questions that you see within the platform have been designed by the very people who create our popular schemes, our popular premium resources. They've been designed by the very same people. And then not only that, we actually employ our own team of developers. So all of this has been custom made by us, for teachers to be able to access. So, you know, that I think makes it quite unique that we've chosen to do that.
I think it's quite a salient point to throw in, Simon, because I think with so much choice and so many products, and I'm not talking specifically about the math space, but in general, when it comes to educational technology, the most important thing that we struggle with now is actually finding the solutions that give us confidence and trust, knowing how your data is being used, how the content and resources is being curated, having confidence that if you've got a problem, there's people that are going to support you, you know, and that's something where you've got a long-standing reputation that it's good to hear, and many do, but it's good to hear you kind of have that whole ecosystem within the organization. That's what gives people the confidence moving forwards. I wanted to reach out to Tony, because we kicked off this show with Beezer, and Tony's been on the exec team at Beezer for some years, helping drive and support the broader EdTech community as well. And I think that ties in with that question we try and ask, which is, you know, how as vendors do you aim to support and serve your audience? So I think it's that bigger picture of, you know, how you see your offering growing, supporting schools in the UK, as well as, of course, what, if anything, they can find out more when it comes to Bett in 10 days' time.
Thanks, Al. Great question. I think what I would say, the key thing, and Simon's mentioned it already, is that we do listen. And I hope that comes across in everything that we do. We sometimes listen and we can't deliver everything that everybody wants. I think sometimes a challenge we'd love to be able to, but we do listen. We do look at feedback that we get about every one of our products, not just White Rose Infinity, and we try and make changes based on them. Our team work with teachers in schools 75% of our team have been teachers. We deliver CPD in schools. We provide school-to-school support and other things along those lines. So we're constantly seeing our products being used within schools, and that helps us then adapt and make changes. It's why that we can make suggestions about, say, the curriculum review that's been happening and other things along those lines in England as well. So I feel one of the things at our heart, and Simon touched on it earlier, is that customer, and we do genuinely listen. We do, even if we don't action something straight away, there is a point that's made and it's recorded, and we do listen, and that's why we've versioned our schemes. You'll notice that we version things, and this is version 1 of Infinity, and there'll be a version 1.5. And we talk about that in versions of our schemes, because hopefully every single one is a bit of an improvement based on feedback that we've received. And I think that's really important to us. So when we started White Rose Maths, I think the final thing I want to say is that we always said that we'd only be here as long as people want us to be here in terms of using our resources, feeding back use of our resources, and that remains the case. And at the moment, luckily, they seem to want us still here, but we do try and listen to what they say, and it's great to have an opportunity to talk to people today, and so thank you for that.
That's our pleasure. I think the last thing we always round off with is, how can people find out more? What's the best way to check you guys out?
Great question.
Many different ways. Any of our social channels, get in touch. We're on everything, so you can get in touch through us via that way. We've got our support email address. Go onto the website, get in touch via that contact form, and you'll be put in touch with exactly the right person. And of course, come and find us at Bett. Now, you've asked everyone else what the stand number is. Now, I don't think I've been told what our stand number is, but what I have been told is you won't miss us.
SM64, it says.
Oh, there it is, SM64, absolutely.
There you go.
I believe it's the biggest stand that we've had yet at Bett this year, so you definitely won't miss us.
Fantastic. Well,
Great
we're
stuff,
looking forward to
Thanks,
seeing
Tony.
you. Thanks for coming and supporting the Check It Out show. And we'll see you in 10 days' time. And in the meantime, if you're watching this, of course you'll be watching this, make sure you check out White Rose Maths for the details we've shared. Thank you, folks.
Thanks,
Well,
Mark.
thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks, Tony. Thank you.
Bye.
Oh,
Just genuinely
lovely,
guys
lovely.
in space. Yeah.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And I just want to do a quick shout out and thanks to everybody watching us live as well. It's all not saying thank you to everybody who's coming on, but thank you to you for watching and joining us live. We're across LinkedIn and YouTube and on X this evening. And thank you to Aileen Wallace, who's going to be joining us on the stand for a little recording. But she's saying she's watching live now, and she says she's excited to be invited along to the booth to do a wee video. I wonder where she might be from using phrasing like that.
I can't imagine. I'm
You
not
can't
going to say,
imagine.
but it seems a familiar name.
Looking forward to seeing you, Aileen. Thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you to everybody else joining us live this evening. Thank you so much. So next up, I believe we have Dan Sears joining us from Bromcom. Welcome, Dan.
Yeah, hi, good evening, Marco. Now, how are you? You all right?
Yes.
We're good. If you're
Good,
not Dan,
winning.
pretend you are, please.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely Dan, and I've definitely got my silly background, so you can tell who I am, so that's easy.
Good to see you, Dan.
Nice to see you both as well.
So
Yeah,
you've probably picked up the format now after the first few guests we've had on the show. Obviously, another organisation that Mark and I know really well, been involved in a number of events working as part of the broader offer that Bromcom do to schools and CPD and best practice and advice. But for those people who are interested in what Bromcom's all about, and I'll give you a clue, think MIS. Dan, could you give us your potted introduction of all things Bromcom?
Yes, of course I can. Yeah, so Bromcom is a MIS system. We're a company that only develop MIS and finance systems. So we provide MIS and finance systems to schools of all phases, primary, secondary, special, and whatever may be required out there. And we really believe that we have a product that gives you that real flexibility to enable you to achieve what you want. And that's one thing I think we really excel at. We don't have any shareholders. We're a privately owned company. We're actually in our 29th year of running this year in 2025. And we're looking forward to moving through to our 30th year in 2026. And we offer services directly in the cloud to support schools across the country, both in the UK and also out and abroad as well.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much indeed, Dan. It's a space which has a few competitors in it, shall we say. So with that in mind, what makes Bromcom a solution that's different from others?
I think it's our flexibility. I think we really focus on making sure that we have a solution that allows schools not to have to change their policies and procedures to use, to use an MIS system. The MIS system should be adaptable enough to be able, you design those policy and procedures around the kids that are in your care. You want to make sure that your system can work around those. So I think for me, I was a head teacher for through school, and we were able to have primary assessment, secondary assessment, different types of behaviour patterns, all of that working seamlessly within one system. And we really kind of celebrate that kind of one point of truth. So everything you need to know about your children or your staff as well can all be managed and dealt with within Bromcom. We don't have bolt-on solutions or different companies you have to link with. Everything's built into our one package, and that's the kind of thing you can come and see in 10 days' time when we're there at Bett.
Now, Dan, I've got a declaration of interest. Our multi-academy trust use Bromcom, and we have, amongst other schools in the trust, all through as well. So that was one of the drivers for us choosing Bromcom, was that flexibility at all phases. In fact, we've got infant schools as well that feed into that mix. But for somebody who's sitting thinking, well, I've got my current MIS solution, whatever that may be, what would be the things that you would want to steer people to think about most in terms of when considering what they might be looking for in a new solution?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important. You're right. There are lots of products out there that can offer that service and solution. But it's thinking about as well, looking at the depth and the breadth of what you have. Are you being able to see a common interface? Are you being able to see all those facilities and those elements in one place? You don't need to have a PhD in computer science to set it up. It needs to be nice and simple for people to be able to use and manage. And I think that's really where Bromcom really excels itself. It has things such as apps for teachers, so you can have an Android or an iPhone app, and also for pupils and for parents as well. So we have those 3 different apps that people can share with. We have strong communication that you can have. So you're able to do things such as have automated messaging and actually helping you with those workflows. So going back to, I think, the first person you spoke to about the idea of having things that really reduce the time that teachers spend. I know as a teacher, I went to teach. I didn't spend time to sit on a computer. So it's really important for me that you've got systems that actually, in some ways, I'm telling you almost not to use that system, because the system should be doing it for you. And that's what I think is really key with something like Bromcom, is it's supporting you through our built-in AI and some of our other key workflows to help you, do those things that you need.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you. Listen, I thought I was going to jump in with another comment then. Just jumping on to the next question, if I can, please, Dan. You've touched on it a little bit about this sort of simplicity and different apps and things, but beyond that, how in other sort of ways does Bromcom sort of support and serve the audience, the schools in which they work? Because an MIS should be the sort of the cornerstone of everything. Everything sort of runs through it. It's the beating heart of any school, and you talked about the ease of use and things like that as well. But beyond that, how does it best serve your audience?
So I think it's really important that we're a company that Bromley Computers is where the one frame Bromcom comes from. And our support desk is based in Bromley. The developers are there in Bromley. So if there is any particular questions or situations that you phone and talk to us about, we can very quickly deal with that. And I think the other thing we also have is, it's built and supported in that UK environment. But you have people like my team and my education consultants that can also support you moving forward to make sure you've spent your small money on this product. Are you making best use of it? And we spend a lot of our time going around trusts and schools going, well, we've done this survey. We've realized you're only using these parts of the system. We'd like to suggest you'd like to use this. Can we offer you some training to help you do that? And can we build that through? And we also have something called our Brom community, which is really like a sort of private little Facebooky type environment, where it started off with customers putting in questions and posing questions and people like myself answering them. And now it's almost come self-fulfilling. By the time I log in, other customers are answering customers' questions. So it's really starting to build up that family and community. And on our stand at Bett, we will have our community managers there from Bromcom for people to meet and to be able to see that kind of feature of what we do there as well. So it means that it is daunting changing MIS if it's something that you've had for a million years, but we want to try and make it as simple and as easy as possible to make that process and transition through by using specialists who have been through that process themselves, so they understand what you're going through.
Anything new of note to be sharing at Bett this year, Dan, or is it very much a case of the general iterations and evolution?
We'll be carrying on with the same improvements that we've done before. We've got some more of our AI features to show you. So we're going to be looking at how that can now interact directly with the MIS and actually start to develop and produce those workflows for you. So you can start to have those, rather than you having a question in your head and then you trying to find the answer, you actually can put the question directly into Bromcom and it will actually show you and give you that answer out. But I think it's also showing that kind of solid structure and those kind of enhanced features that we always do. It works out that about 83% of our developments come from our customers. It's not me sitting in an ivory tower as an educationist going, it must look like this, it must look like that. It's coming from our community body. And I think that's really key, that we're building a system that people want on the floor.
There's a good theme here developing this evening. Mark and I bang on about in what feels like for decades, which is the best vendors are the ones that actually listen more than they talk, and that recognize that most of the cool ideas come from the field, because we're there to fix problems, not create solutions to future problems that don't yet exist. So it's good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, one example of that is we're just reviewing how our SEM processes work, and we have a team of about 15 active Senkos in schools. It's not me reading a book. It's not, these are people who are actually at the coalface and they're suggesting what they think they'd like and what they'd like to do. It's not coming from IT people. It's from those people who it's their bread and butter, which means that when you look at elements of Bromcom, as you know, Al, Mark, it is designed to work for those teachers, which I think is really important.
Lovely, great messaging and commentary at the end there, Dan. Just reinforcing what Al said, that you listen to your customers and are responsive to them, and how I love what you shared there, Dan, about how you look at a school's usage and say, well, did you know we could do this, and then can we provide some training to support you with that? It's that relationship and making and supporting schools to get the most out of it. I mean, I'm loving what you're sharing, Dan. Where can people find out more about Bromcom, and where will they be finding you at Bett?
So for the Bett one, I have it written on a Post-it note on my monitor, even though I know it's now on screen, but it's SG20 is going to be our stand. It'll be the big white stand, but do come and see us. Come and have a cup of coffee. Make me feel famous. Say you saw me on the internet, which will be quite nice. And my colleagues will be jealous about that. But also you can go to bromcom.com and contact us on there. And we're on all the usual streams to follow on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, etc. So on all those places. But if you need anything, I'll be there all 3 days, probably slightly tired by Friday. So catch me early and I'll happily have a chat with anybody.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Like many we're sharing tonight, good people, good company, and appreciate you coming and joining us tonight.
Thanks a lot, Al. Thanks, Mark. And I'll see you in 10 days' time. I'll come and say hello.
Yeah,
you will indeed.
Please do.
We all have a nice smile, but we're all going to be knackered by the Friday, aren't we? Let's be honest. It's just part of the Bett experience.
Yeah, part and parcel. Yeah. No, absolutely. So next up on the Check It Out show, and it's going pretty well. I think we're on time and everything, Al. I mean, it's unheard of.
Absolute miracle.
As I look at the time now, we are actually 15 seconds ahead of time.
Time for a dad joke, Mr. Anderson. Have you got any in the repertoire? Who's there?
Europe.
Europe who? Oh my goodness.
Only filled in the 15 seconds. I know that'll go. Next up on the Check It Out show, there's a phrase, and you'll have noticed through my social sharing about how important this sort of thing is to me, Al, over the years, and particularly just for Christmas, I was doing that sort of universal design for learning. Sort of commentary and what have you about products.
Thank you.
Yeah, about accessibility and how many products can be essential for some but useful for all. Well, our next product is one which definitely sort of fits into that bracket. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome onto the Check It Out show Jason Giddens from Reed Speaker. Welcome, Jason. How are you doing this evening?
Hey guys, nice to meet you both.
You're in my lounge.
I know. You know what? I was thinking, whose lounge is it, mine or yours? But yes, I can't see you, but I've looked a few times. I should hide me on my sofa, maybe. I don't know.
Clearly, great minds. So, Mark, you're going to lead on this one.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for joining us today, Jason. I had a great time working with Rebecca and the team and talking to others when we were at guests and carrying on that sort of conversation beyond. So really keen. I was really keen for you to come onto the show and share about the product. Can you tell us about what Read Speaker is? What is Read Speaker?
I appreciate it, and thanks very much for giving us the opportunity. So, blimey, Read Speaker. I mean, we've been around for 25 years, so that's one thing. But I guess, in a nutshell, we provide what I would describe as advanced text-to-speech solutions. They're specifically designed for education. They can be used in business as well. And over that 25 years that we've been going, we've kind of been doing things in the background quietly. But what we've done is sort of develop technology, really, which ensures that you mentioned the word accessibility, but it's also inclusion. Accessibility is really close to my heart, but on top of that, you've got engagement as well, and it's primarily support for individuals, I guess. It tends to be for those who struggle with reading. I mean, I'm dyslexic myself, but any kind of reading or comprehension issues that they may have, whether it be dyslexia, visual impairment, we touch on that as well. But it kind of, what it does essentially is takes the demands of life, the heavy text load. If you're a university student, for example, doing a course which is really heavy on text, gives you the ability to just listen to that text. And I think the biggest thing that I kind of like to try get across to people is we don't do it casual. It's not just a casual tool. We take education seriously and text-to-speech seriously as well. One of your earlier people was talking about LMS. The product integrates seamlessly into a majority of LMSs. I don't know any LMSs that it won't sit on. And the vast majority of it's already plugged in. It just needs activating. People in the UK don't tend to know we exist. We're a household name in the States, but in the UK, we've gradually, quietly started to climb up and raise awareness, I guess. But yeah, we create crystal clear voices, text to speech, and yeah, there's a lot of people that do it, but it's nice to work for a company that does it properly. I listen to it day in, day out, and there's nothing worse than listening to something that sounds like a robot, quite frankly, and ours certainly doesn't.
Jason, that's really interesting. I always think when it comes to some of the real kind of building blocks of ed tech, sometimes people don't realize what they're missing if they've never had it, and that's the hardest thing to communicate. So when we think about text to speech and accessibility, and you're absolutely right to tag on there that inclusion consideration, how would you best explain to people what you offer being different to the kind of out of the box kind of quick mimicry of the text that you see in most operating systems?
Yeah, I think that probably the way it explains to you is Read Speaker isn't just one size fits all. You mentioned inclusion there, and I won't talk about it, but some of our competitors focus on providing what I would class as robotic voices, generic integrations, for example. We've mastered the art over 25 years and refined our approach. Bob on, I like to think. The voices that we offer, the quality, they're natural sounding voices. The integrations that we do are deep, they're great. And the vast majority of them work with very, very popular educational platforms. And I think from our point of view as well, there's a deep commitment within Read Speaker as a company. We're a global company, we've got offices worldwide, that accessibility standards, they need to be met in businesses. We make sure that we tick those boxes with all of our tools. It works quietly in the background, but I think it makes a tangible difference. And particularly students, I see the way students use it to interact, with their content. You mentioned about conclusion. I see students with no accessibility requirements at all, unlike me, which are now using it for a revision tool. They're putting their headphones on. This is something that we offer. And not just that as well, for educators, for teachers, this is schools, colleges, universities. This is a product really that ensures they're ticking those boxes from an accessibility point of view, but they also need to understand that there are people that, I think COVID really accelerated this. People have started to listen to content a lot more than they used to. And, I have noticed a change, over the last few years. And, we do that, but we back it up. We don't just offer a free tool here. We have a fantastic support network. We have a support system that works, across hours. And any student that or educator that does log on and kind of goes, "Oh, I'm having a few issues," I know that our support is exceptional. So I'd like to think that's one of our standout things really, is the fact that the level of support that we offer on top of the tools itself is there to back it up. And there's nothing worse than logging on and trying to use something and you can't use it, particularly like now, this time of day. You have students that are working, and if it's not working, then it's frustrating. So it's the level that we offer and the backup that we give as well. I think that's what separates us.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Jason. You've shared an awful lot of things there to kind of help answer my final question, or our final question for you. But beyond what you shared already, are there any other ways in which you feel that Read Speaker will best support or serve your audience?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned, really, it's there for anyone that faces challenges with reading, processing text, students with learning disabilities, those without learning disabilities, other things I haven't mentioned, non-native English speakers, schools, universities that are always looking to bring on board, other students, people that are overwhelmed by large amounts of text. This is almost like the best way I would kind of explain what we offer, and I'd encourage anybody to come onto the stand and have a look, right, is we don't just offer text to speech, we offer a toolkit. I carry something around with me from day to day, and it empowers me. And I'll give you a practical example really quickly. I've got 15 seconds to do so. So I have it on my phone. And remember the old days when Euston Station used to have that big board across the top, and the moment any platform was announced, everyone would run like Forrest Gump to the designated platform. Well, for me, I can take a photograph of that, and it uses OCR recognition, and it'll read it out to me. So it just makes my day that little bit more simple, So come on, have a look. I think we're on stand SL74, I believe, and have a look at it. You'll get a free demo. We're not like everybody else. We're slightly different, and I believe that. And it's nice for me because I get to help people like myself and everybody else outside that spectrum as well. But yeah, hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea.
Thank you, Jason. I think that was a very eloquent summary. I kind of feel almost like I need to ask you and Mark just to step back in the room and do a quick duet for us, but I won't.
I'll play. You can sing.
But you correctly remembered the stand number, so well done. It's been along the bottom line there. And yeah, folks, do check out. Did you mention your website?
Yeah, it's readspeaker.com. We're on all the socials. Yeah,
Perfect.
I mean, any questions, free demos. We offer sandboxes for LMSs as well. I'd encourage anybody to try us because we are very, very different to everything else that's out there. The quality of the speech is what we do. No gimmicks, no commentary and no comments or actors. It's just fantastic sounding voices.
Brilliant. Well, you heard it here first. Go and check out stand SL74 at the show. And thank you, Jason. Lovely to see you. Appreciate you.
Guys, nice to meet you. See you back.
Thank you.
All the best.
See you. Bye.
Another interesting one. It's nice to have a nice mix of solutions. As always, we always seem to manage to get on the Check It Out show, Mark, coming from different angles, and something that's kind of just, it's there, making technology, being part of the classroom, the learning experience accessible for everybody, including not just in the classroom, but just in everyday life as well. Next guest, someone we're both familiar with, you more than me, but we've had the pleasure of both being aware of this solution and meeting up with the team. I'm going to let you kick off this one.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, great solution here. And talk about impact in education. I had the privilege of having a bit of a front running, as it were, of some real feedback from teachers from Leo Academies who've been using this particular solution and the impact it's been having on workload and sort of marking reduction and supporting learning outcomes. Gentleman who from the company who's going to join us in a few seconds ago approached me at an event that we were both at actually back in September down near London in Bromley, and yeah, I was compelled by what the solution had to offer. We've had a few more conversations. I was delighted to be able to feature them on the Appvent calendar back in December. And there's some really, really lovely features. But what I don't want to do is basically do what Lucian is about to do himself and answer all of his questions for him. So please welcome onto the Check It Out show, Lucian Bowertal from Olex.ai. Welcome, Lucian.
Thanks very much, Mark. Al, nice to be here.
Mark's covered it for you, so thank you and good night, Lucy.
Well done.
Cheers. It was funny though. I could see you in the little green room beforehand, and I need to ask: were you biting off some sellotape, or were you eating some prawns? It was I couldn't work out from the.
I had a very, very tricky sellotape roll, and I didn't know that you could see me, Mark. But I appreciate you.
There you go.
That's not
but
one
it is the Check It Out show after all. So, for those who don't know, Lucian, could you share a little bit about what Olex.ai actually is? What is it?
Yeah, of course. And actually, Al, I'll use your words because you said this very, very well when we were up in Nottingham a couple of months ago, which is that there's lots and lots of stuff happening in AI at the moment. What we are trying to do with Olex.ai is one thing very, very well. And that thing is helping English teachers with their teaching and assessment workload. So that is, in our opinion, one of the most arduous processes that any teacher has to go through, which is the weekly cycle of taking essays, 30 essays, often handwritten, and marking those essays evenings, weekends, and then delivering that feedback to students. And one of the big breakthroughs in AI over the last couple of years is the ability to really understand language. So what we've done is taken that and built it into a super simple to use product called Olex.ai, which allows any English teacher to mark an entire class load of essays rather than spending evenings, 4 hours over the weekend, etc., in just a couple of minutes. And it marks these essays to exam standard, to essentially the standard of the best teacher in your school. How do we know this? Well, we have a teacher panel of heads of English from maths across the country, including examiners, Key Stage 2 and GCSE examiners who review all of the output. And what Olex.ai will do is it will mark each individual student and give them individual feedback. It will also deliver class level feedback. So you get an overview of the class and crucially, common misconceptions across the class. And then it will take that and it will generate a personalized lesson plan for that class for the next lesson. And as it's doing that, all sorts of other AI features kick in. So for example, for any EAL students, it will also translate the feedback into their native language, which is obviously hugely beneficial for them, but also for their parents. And one of the crucial things for us is that lots of talk about AI and the impact on teachers. Olex.ai has been designed around teachers, not around students, not around anybody else, but around teachers. So it's teachers that are the primary audience. No AI faces directly into students. No AI output goes to students until the teacher has approved it, and that includes reviewing and editing if they wish to. So the teachers select the rubric, and the teachers review the output before it goes back to students. And in doing so, what we believe is that we're saving a huge amount of workload for teachers, but we're also elevating potentially junior teachers to a much higher level of insight around student performance.
It's really quite annoying because you've preempted so many of my questions where I wanted to challenge you. Obviously, the whole point is the way you've structured it is very much, as you've said, teacher-centric. And I think the natural yin and yang with AI at the moment is there's huge opportunity, but there's a natural concern about, Are we there yet? Is it safe? What about consistency? And I think that's the key thing for me, is building teacher confidence. Probably the most important thing for me, as you articulate and have shared before, is the sense of it's a teacher tool that a teacher moderates before it goes to the student. So those fears about quality control and how it might produce things, teachers can build their own confidence and reassurance by seeing the output themselves. You did mention it specifically from an English language perspective, but am I right in assuming that if I was a humanities teacher, I might find for some of those essays and things that it's just as useful?
Yeah, so we actually, although I say it's for English, we launched history in September, Al, and we're working on geography and RS. So all of those sort of long form language we will have live within a few months. And yes, I think, you know, this point around designing it for teachers and designing about the real challenges that teachers have. So particularly, you know, marking an individual essay, one individual essay is great, but it's not that useful in a real world scenario. So we've designed it around 30 essays at a time. And included in that is, how do we make it useful for teachers? So traditionally, there's been a big challenge around EdTech around handwritten essays. So what do you do about that? So what we've built into OLEX AI is a tool actually named by a teacher called SnapSnap, which allows them to use their phone or a tablet, workbooks, handwritten workbooks are out on the desk, and they can just snap, take pictures, and OLEX has handwriting recognition built in, which converts that into text. Another great example is around safeguarding. So one of the really great tools that we have in OLEX is called the Imaginator. So this is designed to really inspire young writers to write more, to use more adjectives. And what it does is it takes their writing and imagines what that would look like as a picture. So they get beautiful pictures of their story, their adjectives, their characters, their scenery, which they get in a illustrated workbook to take home, to put in their workbooks, to put up on the wall of the class. But that's a great example where there is some risk around creating images. What is the AI going to come out with? So we've spent hundreds of hours of development time building in 5 layers of safeguarding to all of our image generation to make sure that the image is entirely safe, whether this is a Key Stage 1 or a Key Stage 4 student that is being given the essay.
I have a question that's popped in my head. Forgive me, Mark, but I'll ask
right.
it, and you and Mark can probably discuss the answer. A typical modern secondary school, you might be 6, 7, 8 form entry. Is there any evidence in terms of using OLEX where you actually get more consistency in terms of assessment of written work across a year group than you would have done previously?
Yeah, so this is actually one of our key pieces of development that we launched in November, which is called OLEX Analytics. So because essentially OLEX is marking every single essay across every single class across the entire MAT, you remove the subjectivity that you have at the moment. And obviously at the moment we have big processes like the moderation process, which are designed to remove that subjectivity. But you've got essentially the same teacher marking every single essay. So firstly, that can shortcut the moderation process, streamline the moderation process. But because you get so much consistency, you can do something actually really exciting with English, which is turn it from a qualitatively assessed subject into a quantitatively assessed subject. So we can now start to produce data on English language progression. So that might be that at Key Stage 2, that the students have 100 words that they're supposed to use across the year, 100 words of vocabulary. We can actually track those across the year and show how many of those words they're using, and do that at a class level, do that at a school level, and then we can roll that all the way up to a MAT dashboard for MAT leaders so they can see progress. And in the same way as for maths, they can see where one school or one class is doing well in trigonometry and another one is doing not so well in algebra. They can start to do the same with English topics, whether those are Key Stage 2 use of adjectives or whether those are GCSE A01. So they get a real data dashboard with graphs showing that progression. And obviously, when you do come to the moderation process, OLEX has pre-moderated all of the essays. So rather than teachers peer reviewing, they're actually looking at OLEX, and OLEX has gone into the essays and provided evidence of descriptive writing or use of tenses, which again, we're finding that allows maths to radically simplify their moderation process, exactly to your point, Al.
And you jumped in with the thing I was going to share about as well, Al. I mean, the fact that it can do all these different things is amazing. I personally used to love marking my students' work because it would give me the insights into how they were on progressing in so many different levels. But what I love about OLX is it does that, it marks it for you, but it gives you the insights without you having to do all the hard hour of sitting there going through the whole thing, for every student. What I also loved as well that you brought up in your response, Al, is that when you started, Lucian, you were saying about marking 30 essays a week. In my experience, English teachers mark far more than just in secondary schools will mark far more than that in the course of any given week. And so it's important, I think, to note that OLX works both in a primary setting and in a secondary setting, rather than GCSE as well. So please do note that. I'm mindful though that I am now talking as you, Lucian, so I'll stop talking on that. But actually, the final question, which is beyond what you've shared already, are there any other ways in which OLX.ai can sort of support the teachers in the classroom? Are there any other features?
So I think the key things are doing that marking, taking the workload away, and delivering that insight at a much greater depth than ever previously, and creating that joy and energy in the classroom with something like the Imaginator. The one thing I would say around this, Mark, is that the way we've designed OLX AI, it requires zero AI knowledge from teachers. And there's a lot of pressure on teachers right now to learn the latest prompts, learn the latest tools, have lots of different tools that they need to select the right one from. They don't for OLX AI. There is one button in OLX AI that says run OLX AI. If the teacher is capable of clicking that button, then they can get the best out of their tool. They need to know nothing about prompts, nothing about AI engines. Behind the scenes, we're doing all the AI work, keeping up with the latest developments, the latest rubrics, etc., which we will customize for each mat as well if required.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Lucian. So look, you're going to be at Bett, obviously. Could you share a little bit about where people can find you at Bett and where they can find you online on LinkedIn and X and other channels?
Yeah, so our URL is, funnily enough, very, very simple, which is olex.ai. So we should be able to get that one. And we are on stand SL70 at Bett, and looking forward to meeting as many people as we can.
Fantastic
Brilliant stuff. Well, thanks so much for coming on and joining us tonight, Lucian. Look forward to seeing you in 10. People keep saying 10 days. I can't believe it's 10 days away. I'll see you in 10 days.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.
Another good one. I know you're a big fan of them, Mark. So
it's so lovely. So I've had a chance to have a little play around and use it myself with some bits of writing and things myself. It's just phenomenal. It's just really, really clever, and yeah, I mean things like the Imaginator add an extra level to it as well. But for inspiring writing from younger students and the translation on feedback, all those different things, it's so useful, so helpful. So yeah, I hate it personally. It's one of the worst products I've ever seen.
Right, moving on quickly before Mr. Anderson carries on. Our next guest, we got ourselves slightly wires crossed earlier, but I am reliably informed that our next guest is Simon Howarth from CPOMS. Simon, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I mean, what a time to join after that last presentation. I've been listening along in the background, but as an ex-history teacher myself, the idea of a platform where some of that backbreaking work, as you say, as a secondary school teacher, marking 100 essays a week, to think that'd be analysed and fed back to me as a way of supporting all my students. That sounds fantastic. Maybe I'll go back to the classroom knowing that that's out there.
You can't be doing that. You've got way too much cool and really important stuff to be doing with CPOMS. Now, most people in education will be familiar with one or other name that links into a space that's very much about how we make sure we can track and keep our children as safe as possible within the education setting and link through to those killer services and key services that we want to make sure they're there. I've probably done the first part of your elevator pitch for you there, Simon, but perhaps you can kick things off for those of the uninitiated to tell everybody a little bit about CPOMS and what you're all about.
100%. If you are in the minority who haven't heard of CPOMS previously, we are an online platform. We are providing safeguarding and pastoral care through our online tool. The idea is we're giving you a secure platform where you can record and also record actions around the concerns you have relating to students and communicate with staff members within your organization. Now, certainly when I was in school, I remember us first adopting CPOMs in my first school 12 years ago. Things have developed as it's gone along. What originally you may have seen a demonstration of the product and seen it very much as for child protection and looking at those serious cases, the umbrella that sits underneath CPOMs has grown and grown. It's there for tracking your attendance. It's there for those students where you've got that persistence absence and you're wanting to gather the evidence that you're going to be feeding onto your local authority. It's there for your bullying incidents. One of the most recent developments that we've added into the product this year is a module called Premium Cases and Forms. Not all schools will have seen that yet. It's an additional feature that we've built in there, but the idea is you've got a sandbox where you can do your investigations now within the platform. You can build in additional paper-based forms that maybe in the past you'd have had to get people to fill in on paper, or things would have had to be completed by one member of staff and then emailed onto another. You can now collaboratively work together to ensure that all those little pieces of evidence, all those jigsaw piece puzzles that maybe disparate members of staff will have noticed are now pulled together, and you safeguarding team can really get to grips with it and gathering additional evidence to go alongside it. Now, for me, I did use multiple safeguarding platforms. I'm in a privileged position in that I have used some of the competitors too. For me, the standout part of CPOMs was the reporting. Certainly when I was working on the safeguarding team and leading that, it's one thing to have the evidence being recorded and stored securely. It's another thing to feel like that information is then being presented to you in a meaningful way to make a difference for those young people. And CPOMs does a great job of allowing you to produce reports, either be it what the staff members have recorded and gathering that together in a format that allows you to follow through the narratives, or giving you a data set to work with externally. You can put things into Excel tables. The platform will do your graphical outputs in addition to. The idea is CPOMs is about taking away some of that legwork to make sure that staff can really do the important job, and that's protecting the children that are in your care. Not just for schools. Certainly, if I think about my last month at the company, I've been working with football clubs, I've been working with church organisations. If you're in a position where you've got information to record that relates to safeguarding individuals, relates to tracking interventions and actions, this is a platform you can customize to your setting. You're not linked to specific categories. You can take it in the direction that you want it to go in to make sure people stay safe.
I just wish you'd be a little bit more enthusiastic, Simon.
I mean, when I was leaving education, obviously I had a skill set. I did think about maybe other education positions, but I actually realized it was safeguarding I was passionate about. And when I saw the opportunity at CPOMs, for me, it was just a case of that's a company that I already know I'm aligned with. I know that I can really make a difference. And that I did love every day in school. I still love every day working at CPOMs. It's fantastic.
Perfect.
It's funny you mentioned that, Simon. I mean, I'm very much in the same sort of mindset with my work at Net Support. It's about the values of the business. So clearly, you're a huge advocate for CPOMs. We mentioned there are other similar providers out there, and you've had the experience of using others as well. So with that in mind, I'll just move on to the next question, if that's okay. In what you mentioned, reporting was a standout feature for CPOMs. Are there any of the sort of things which make CPOMs different and, in your eyes, better than your competitors?
For me, it's the ability to customize. First of all, on your categories, you can adjust the categories within the system to be the wording which suits the terminology that you want to use, but also it's to do with your permissions. It's not a one size fits all. You can have a member of staff with a very limited access where they're just reporting what they notice. They're not going to see any information. It is very much a one-way street. You can have another member of staff who maybe wears, for example, an attendance officer. They have a very specific role in school. You can set the platform so that they will be alerted to anything attendance related, but you don't have to have that concern that maybe they're going to see something that isn't relevant to their role. So CPOMs, and we work with you on it, we make sure that we're setting it up in a way that the platform is sharing the information with the right people and giving people the view that they need to be effective.
Love it. Love it. You've covered lots of bits in your in your summary there. The sort of third part that Mark and I like to ask is just about how you best support and serve your audience. Well, we know fundamentally what you're there is about one of the most important strands of supporting and serving the audience on something that is so important. But we also know it's not just about how cool the tool is, it's about the support and service that's wrapped around it. So maybe you could just touch on that, Simon, before we get some closing details from you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, first and foremost, when a customer joins CPOMs, they get access to knowledge base, and knowledge base is fantastic. Essentially, you've got 3 levels of kind of expertise. You've got that entry level where there's a 5-minute video, how to log in, how to log a concern, how to make sure that you've got your password the way you want it to be. You're done, you can do your role. Intermediate, you've got that ability to, maybe start looking at the reporting, adding actions to incidents that have taken place, going through to your expert level where it's, about making some of those really complicated reports, setting other staff members alerts, making sure that you've got permission groups working the way that you want them to. The nice thing is, and I've been there myself, I remember as being one of those expert members of staff, watching some of the videos, I was pretty confident I know what I was doing. And then when I ran the report, it wasn't what I was expecting. The great thing about CPOMs is, because we're UK based, we've got staff in from 8:30 till 5 o'clock at night. I remember kind of putting in a support request. Somebody joined me on a Teams meeting and essentially helped me, held my hand through what it was that I hadn't quite got right. And for me, it was just knowing that there were those experts there, that they knew what I wanted from the report. They've been in the schools themselves. They've been DSLs. They've worked on pastoral teams. They were able to kind of listen to my not fully understanding what I wanted at the time out of CPOMs and just understand what it was that I needed and make that happen. And for me, that was invaluable.
Love it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Simon. Listen, you'll be at Bett, as all of our guests this evening will be. Where can people find you at Bett? And if not going to Bett, where else could they find you?
Yeah, so we'll be at Bett. I think it's stand SK or SF 70. I'll be there. And the thing is, it won't just be the sales team. We've got members of the customer support team who'll be along there, professional services. Even if you're already a customer, we'd love to speak to you just to see what we can do to help you get more out of your platform. But certainly, if you've not seen CPOMs, come along and have a demo from me or one of my colleagues. If you're not going to be at Bett or we don't manage to catch you, we are on LinkedIn. You can find our profile there on CPOM Systems. Also, come and find me on LinkedIn, Simon Howarth. I'd love to connect with some more people and get some demos in there, meetings, just to find out what some people's pain points are and find out how CPOMs can help you through those.
Great stuff. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Simon. Look forward to seeing you in a few weeks. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Looking forward to the rest of the show.
Cheers. Thanks, Simon. Thank you. Take care.
Can't beat a bit of positivity at this time of night, Mr. Anderson.
No, absolutely. I would cup of Simon every morning, I think. It might be more healthy for me than all the coffee I drink.
Now, next up is somebody that I was about to introduce because it's in our order, but actually you need to, because it's rarely a month goes by where I don't see you with some pink headset involved in some piece of activity somewhere in the world. So why don't I hand over to this one?
I feel like I should reach over and grab the pair that are literally just over there, but I won't do that because that would be too much on brand. Welcome to the Check It Out show, Rob Jones from Now Press Play. Welcome, Rob.
I've got some here already for you.
I've passed plucked them over. No, welcome. Thank you for joining us today, Rob. And I've got to say, big fan of Now Press Play and worked with you as a business many times over the years. And in fact, I'm on your advisory board as well. So just get my sort of what's the word I'm looking for here, Al?
Declaration of interest.
That's my declaration of interest right out of the way there. Thank you very much. Cheers, Al.
No, thanks.
But for those of you who have been hiding under a rock, Rob, and I mean, the headlines might have given it away there, but what exactly is Now Press Play?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So for me, Now Press Play, it's really a way of bringing class trips to the classroom. So if you can imagine starting the day with your children, you're fighting a woolly mammoth in the Stone Age, you're swinging through the canopy of the rainforests, or you're completing fractions aboard the Titanic. And it's all done really through immersive audio storytelling. So as we touched on a moment ago, each child will get their own wireless headphone and they become the main character in these stories that we've created. Now, it is quite active. So if you can imagine now for a moment, you're in the hall with your class of 30 children, and each of them simultaneously are they're fighting away, they're fighting the woolly mammoth, or they're perhaps crouched down on their hands and knees and they're rubbing the sticks together, trying to create a fire. And it's really all around helping extend children's life experiences. Certainly enriches the curriculum and definitely stimulates their imaginations. And yeah, it's really all around helping also encourage speaking and literacy with follow-on resources that we have that accompany every single experience. But yeah, as you know yourself, Mark, it's just a fantastic way to really get children engaged in whichever topic that they choose to experience.
No, absolutely. From schools I've been in, from Abu Dhabi to Peterborough to Birmingham, it's a product which it excites young people and focuses them on learning in such innovative ways. I've seen impacts in some schools in Birmingham, for example, where it's really helped improve their writing from the descriptive words that children are able to use in their writing, following on from the experiences, which are all supported by curriculum resources as well, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, exactly that. And a lot of work's gone into those resources. We've recently developed Oracy, actually, as another resource that's brand new this year. So there's writing opportunities, there's reading templates, there's Oracy opportunities as well, which all accompany every single experience. And you know, each school is different depending on which priority they have. Some schools, obviously, reading might be their priority, and those resources are so invaluable, especially for reluctant readers who, you know, perhaps find it more difficult. But once they've taken part in these active live experiences, they then go on to read about what they've, you know, just taken part in firsthand. It just reads so much easier for them, and they can really get on board with what they're reading. So yeah, the follow-on resource aspect really accompanies the experience. And you know, we class it as a bit of a twofold part of it now. Press Play. You've got the experiential side, and accompanying that, you've got all the resources to do back in the classroom as well.
It's really easy to have that kind of experiential, and sometimes that can often be dismissed as it's just a nice to have, without, I think, necessarily recognizing that for some learners that way of making learning accessible and engaging and actually getting that engagement with learners can be so different. And like Mark, I've had the pleasure of seeing a number of schools that use the resource, but I think as we continue that conversation about what does learning in the classroom look like, and the fact that it isn't just this standard template, more and more, Rob, it plays itself to that sense of encouraging children to become part in their imaginations as well as in the physical, into that learning space that actually is where often the most powerful memories and recollection can be drawn from.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's where it stems from, also using the headphones. So with it being all audio based, I suppose it slightly zags in today's world where, you know, everything is so visual, and of course the visual side has its place, definitely. But with it being just audio based, it really stimulates their imaginations and gets them thinking in a completely different way to probably, you know, what in comparison to what we were used to when we were younger, and perhaps has been a little bit lost now. So yeah, it really invokes that imaginative side. I mean, we as adults, if we put headphones in, we can quite easily get lost into what we're listening to. And I think it's even more the case for children as well. So yeah, it's definitely something different that children probably don't have access to normally within the classroom.
Yeah. But I think we have to keep pushing on that, because without going off on a segue, you know, we as adults learn the value of reading and that sense of imagination, and books can be the most richest content. And we see our learning journeys moving to podcasts and ways we consume information. And yet we don't always trait that natural segue and think, and that could be just the same for our younger learners if we could find the right resources. And of course the key is in those curated resources. If it was a recording of me chatting to the children, I suspect you wouldn't get much of any level of engagement for very long. So that's the key bit, isn't it? You know, it's about how you curate all of those resources.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of work goes into creating those experiences as well, from sound editors to script writers to actors who are coming in and doing the voiceovers. A lot of effort goes in. So a lot of props goes to the production team within that. But yeah, I mean, all the proof can sort of be seen in the results, you know, from when the children put those headphones on, and it's the engagement that the children have. And I think that's one of the biggest positives. And one of the things we hear mostly from teachers is how engaged all children are. And that actually rolls nicely into the inclusivity side of it as well. I think one of the biggest or most pleasing aspects for me is when I've been fortunate enough to go into schools and deliver some demonstration sessions with children. You know, normally you'll speak to the teacher beforehand and there'll be a couple of children that they're keeping their eye on. But once you press play, you will not be able to pick those children out. They are completely involved as much as everyone else. And it's really nice to see that, you know, there's been feedback from parents in the past of saying that their child was able to learn among the classroom and among their peers, which, you know, previously they've not been able to. So when you see cases like that and you see the impact that it's having, it's a real big difference maker for children.
No, absolutely, Rob. Listen, I wanted to just follow up on one little thing you shared, because you sort of shared about the credentials in terms of like the people who are actors and sound producers and what have you. But the resources, the following resources, have got educator credentials as well, from like Oscar and others, and developing those as well. Do you want to share a bit about that as well?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So yeah, as you mentioned, Oscar's our director of product, who's obviously got a teaching background as well. He collates with, I think there's a certain board of different teachers to make sure that all of the experiences that we create meet the certain curriculum beats that we need it to hit, but also at the same time it's carrying through that experience and through that journey. For example, with the history experiences, it's slightly easy because the story is already told, so it's easy to then create that story for it because you've got all of the historical content. For other ones, for example, I think I mentioned fractions. We've placed that on the Titanic, so it's slightly cross-curricular, and the children get to experience what life was like on the Titanic, but then they have the resources to complete during that experience, which will then tailor it straight back to fractions for, say, Year 5, for example. But it is all related to what they're actually listening to. So I think, again, it helps them be more engaged with actually their learning and practicing their fraction skills without probably realizing what they're doing. But yeah, the production team do a fantastic job on both the experience side and also the resource side as well to make sure everything is met.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Rob. We haven't got through all of our normal sort of questions. We've only got 40 or so seconds left, I can see here. Could you, I'll jump to the final question about how, I mean, you covered it in quite a lot of detail anyway, but how do you, thinking about how Al phrased it in the last question, how do you support schools in sort of onboarding them and getting them sort of working with the products and service of Now Press Play?
Yeah, so thanks for asking that, actually, Mark. It's something that we're doing increasingly more, and it's one of the biggest things to do at the start of any school's journey as they start to subscribe. So we're working a lot more closely now with curriculum leads from within the school. We'll sit down and have curriculum embedding sessions after we have already completed a curriculum map for the schools, so that it creates much better visibility for teachers to see, right, we've got obviously online safety week is coming up in the next few weeks. We've got an online safety experience we could do for Key Stage 1 or for Key Stage 2. So it's really drilling down all the different ways that they can get the most out of each experience, where they can use them. And on top of that, actually, it's slightly away from our sort of, biggest USP of the experiences, but different ways that they can use the equipment as well. If they wanted to treat the children to a silent disco, they can do that. They can explore different ways. So we're trying to work with schools much more closely to make sure that they are getting everything that they need from us, obviously, but to help them make the most of it as well. So yeah, conscious of time, but yeah, hopefully that's
great stuff. Thanks, Rob. So Bett's coming up very, very soon. Where can we find you at Bett, and where can we find you online?
Unfortunately, Mark, we won't be attending Bett this year. I think after being there, for 10 years straight, we're taking a little hiatus this year, but I'm sure we will be back next year. So unfortunately, we won't be there to be seen in person. But yeah, online, feel free to have a look at us on LinkedIn. And yeah, feel free to visit the Now Press Play website as well. You can have a look at all the different experiences we offer there. And actually, I will just plug the Now Press Play app. If you do fancy having a little look, if you go into the App Store, download the app for free. You can click a little demo button, and that'll give you full access to all of the app, so you can see all of the follow-on resources that accompany every experience. You just won't be able to listen to every experience in full, which is a bit of a shame. But contact us for further details, and we can help you out.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. And yeah, highly recommended from all of us folks. So pleasure to have a chance for a catch up with you.
That's brilliant. Thanks, guys, and great show. Yeah, it's been a great.
Thank you so much, Rob. Cheers.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Cheers. Take care. Cheers.
Bye bye.
He was talking to me, not you, Mark, about the great show. Clearly, we're in the home straight. We've got two more, and the last couple of our attendees, they're not going to be exhibiting at Bett, but they're cool tools, and we always like to try and squeeze in a few extra on the show. So our penultimate guest and solution that we're showcasing today is one that I know at this time of night has piqued both our interest with the name, but we have Richard Lewis with Pizza Maths VR.
Hi, James.
Good to see you, sir.
Welcome, Rich.
Good to see you both. I actually will be at Bett. Won't be exhibiting, but I'll be at Costa with a VR headset doing some Maverick, demonstrations.
Oh, we like a bit of Maverick. That sounds extra good. Yeah, and you'll always find a steady queue at Costa where at any time of day when it comes to Bett.
That's what I thought.
I also want to thank you for this time of night being stood in just a shirt outside. You must be freezing. Mark's busy with his piano, and you always get a lovely variety. But that shows real commitment, Rich. So thank you.
You're quite welcome. I think of those reporters who have to do the live, the live in the snow reporting. I'm channeling that kind of energy.
So while you've got that energy, tell us about Pizza Maths VR and what it's all about.
So Pizza Math is the first product of BrainMan VR. We're tackling three major pain points. One, most learners find maths boring. Not all of them, but at GCSE level, a lot of them do. Kids these days struggle to focus increasingly. Perhaps it's due to too much tech. Perhaps it's not. Who knows? Thirdly, teachers have always been outnumbered. It's the oldest kind of problem in the education game. And so we're dealing with these three things by bringing together three different phenomena. One, virtual reality to help them focus. Two, gamification, so that they are immersed in an experience that stops it being boring. They feel like they are having fun. They don't even realize they're learning. And the user feedback has kind of attested to that. And then the third one is the problem with teachers being outnumbered. They can't help all kids who have questions simultaneously. Every single kid who puts on a VR headset gets their own dedicated AI-powered tutor. So it's an avatar that's in the pizza restaurant with them. The press of a button, they can speak their question and then release the button. It gets sent up to the cloud, comes back, and then this human avatar gives the responses. So I've done all the prompt engineering for that. Also, as a neuroscientist, I am absolutely obsessed with creating games that enable kids to get into flow. So it's not just that when a person is in flow, the time flies because they're having fun. It's also that when you're having fun, you don't notice that you're learning. You manage to clock up enough repetitions to get the neuroplasticity going. So I'm talking about actually changing brain pathways, the specific neural networks that support certain mathematical calculations, so that when they come to the exam, they can do it much more quickly, much more accurately, because in the context of the game where they're serving customers in the pizza restaurant as fast as possible, they get used to doing that calculation very quickly. So the first game is all about calculating proportions on the basis of ratios. They know that it's, say, a 3:2 ratio of pepperoni to onion. They know that they've got 9 pepperoni. They have to calculate how many onion they need. So because they're doing it so many repetitions, it becomes effortless, and we adaptively kind of match their current capability. Some days, if they've done really well the last week and they come into the game and they're not really feeling like they're operating at 100%, we'll bring the difficulty level down. If they're doing super, super well, we'll notch it up to keep them in that sweet spot where it's not too hard, it's not too easy, but it's just right.
So I'm thinking Goldilocks when I'm hearing this. I'm also thinking, Rich, about my own children. One's in year 9, and as you allude to, maths isn't his favourite subject. So I might be getting in touch with you after the event here now. But because it certainly might be a better use of his MetaQuest than you might be using it for now as well. So
that's what we're building for. So that's great.
Well, there you go. Cool. But listen. the maths market is well attested to. Could you share a little bit about what makes your solution? I mean, there are a number of things in there, right? About doing it in VR, about the cognitive science approaches linked into that. There's that the Goldilocks effect type stuff you're talking about there with the gamification you've got going on as well. But that could be said of a bunch of products, right, within the math space. So what makes your product different from others?
So Brainman VR has got 3 co-founders, and we each bring a different thing to the equation. So one of them, my CTO, is an amazing VR developer, and it was actually his passion for teaching. But both his parents are teachers. His parents have mates where all 3 of their sons became heads of maths at various schools, and one of them was our first advisor. There's a real passion to kind of make learning maths more fun, because it underpins so many STEM subjects. I, as a neuroscientist, cover the neuroscience bit. I've already covered that. But the third co-founder is an immersive theatre director and actor. And it sounds like a bit odd. Why would you need an immersive theatre director? But a game designer is useless in VR, because virtual reality it's 360. Game designers are used to having a 2D screen. They know where the person's looking, whether it's a screen or a laptop or a huge screen with PlayStation or something playing on it. In VR, you need to know how to direct people's attention to different parts of space. So that's kind of unique. We're bringing together immersive theatre, neuroscience, and virtual reality expertise. And I actually worked with Joel, my CTO, building cataract surgery training for people surgeons to learn how to do cataract surgery out in places where they have very limited technology. So that was like audio, visual, and the touch sensation. The other aspect that's quite unique is that we go into schools, and so there's this thing called agile development, which you might have heard of, but you don't just build and build and build assuming you know best. You do a little sprint of a couple of months, go into schools. So we're working with Latimer Upper School and City of London Girls. There are 2 kind of top schools. They're not the only schools we're working with, but we want to get that brand of approval that the heads of maths and the kids, our end users at the end of the day are learners, 12 to 14 years old. We're starting off with proportions, and we're also getting University of Leicester maths students in their final year to help us design the roadmap for what game should we tackle next. And surprise, surprise, it's a pizza restaurant, circle theorem. But we're actually getting experts in maths, experts in learning, and the users themselves involved in testing it before we do any work, because we're all working for free at the moment. We're trying to build this thing to get the elusive product market fit. We're actually very close to minimum viable product, which is why I'm going to be there maverickly showing it to anyone who shows an interest in Costa, because we want to make sure that we get everyone's feedback before we try and actually get clients.
Brilliant. I mean, that leads on to another question for me, but I know Al will be jumping and chomping a bit with some questions himself as well. So I'll rein myself in for a second.
Oh, bless you. I mean, I think it's one of those. It's really an interesting, because many of us have been involved in the sequence over the years of startups and innovating new products, and of course we've touched on it with a few vendors this evening, but that sense of, you talked about agile methodologies, but that sense of co-production is king. It's at the heart of making sure that you've always got that constant litmus test, and it will serve you well in the long run, credibility and also the fit and appropriateness of the product. I suppose the evaluation of my next question really is, when you're looking at that solution and you're looking how it fits, you started to touch on it when Mark got excited about potentially using it with his own headset. Are you looking from an accessibility point of view to broaden from one particular brand over time to be something where maybe a phone with Google Cardboard would allow you to expand it? Because we do have this yin and yang in education right now, which is we want innovation with a deficit budget, and trying to find that common ground is tough, particularly for vendors who've got to invest in developing technology.
Yeah, it's a great question, Al. So the latest Meta Quest headset is Quest 3, and we aren't building for Quest 3, we're building for Quest 2s, because there are lots of them gathering dust on shelving units. We got PricewaterhouseCoopers to donate us 10 of theirs so that we can gift them to schools. Really, you only need one headset in a school. I know it sounds weird, but we're not trying to cover the whole syllabus. We're not trying to cover like everything. We're like a golden bullet aiming at specific, so proportion, you can express a proportion obviously as a ratio, as a percentage, as a decimal, as a degrees of a circle. So we can ask the questions in multiple different ways, so it comes in useful in many different parts of the maths paper. And we want teachers to be empowered to go, right, okay, I've got this thing available, we've got a headset. Used to only have one in the geography department. Now the maths department has one. I just need to make it accessible in the sense of, 2 or 3 second-hand refurbished headsets. It doesn't need to be ultra high definition. I was actually really amazed how forgiving the students were. I was expecting them to snipe about how, oh my God, the graphics are terrible. Like, it's not realistic. They were like, oh, wow. It's like the 3D-ness of it is so amazing that even though the graphics aren't really, really ultra high definition, they forgive us, even though the games they play on a regular basis are ultra high definition, because it's not expected in 3D immersive space. So yeah, we are headset agnostic in the sense that Joel can just change some settings and make it accessible for any headset. So as the headset prices come down and down and down, or let's say, NVIDIA just released a very inexpensive, very tiny supercomputer for affordable prices. When that happens in the world of VR, we can just change a few settings and it will work on pretty much any headset. If the schools want to tell us what headsets they want us to make it on, we'll make it.
Good. Nice to hear.
Great stuff. Thank you very much indeed, Rich. I'm looking forward to catching up with you in Costa, and I'm certainly keen to sort of find out more. If people wanted to get in touch with you, if they've heard this and thinking this sounds something I'd like to get involved in and learn more about, where can people find you, Rich?
Yeah, best place to go. It's very confusing. I've got that handle at Dr. Jack Lewis because that's my TV name, but that's a completely different story. Brainman.vr.co.uk. We've got demos on there. We've got blogs. We've got everything. That's the best place. I'm also on LinkedIn, Richard Kirk Lewis.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much,
Thanks
Richard,
for
joining us. Thank you.
There. Have a good evening.
Take care. See you soon.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Well, we've had a feast for the eyes, for the ears, and all around tonight, which is great to think of how we can engage different technologies to amplify learning in so many different ways.
And that's like a pepperoni and onion,
Well, yeah, I know. Luckily, we've got a good friend to both of us, last up, with a really cool tool and something particularly for the leadership across our schools now to help with their time saving and resource. So absolutely. I think a perfect one to round off today's highlights. So without further ado, Craig McKee and SLT AI.
Evening, both. I don't think I can follow being a feast to the eyes or ears, Al. So I don't know where I'm going to fit in now. But evening, both. Good to see you.
Yeah, pleasure to have you on the show.
It's been really good so far. I really enjoyed listening to the speakers.
Some really nice mix, as always. And we probably at this point should just pause and say thank you, Katie, behind the scenes, making all these screens happen, who also helps curate the guests and the lists and the folks that come and join this conversation. Mark and I get the scheme of things. So thank you. But listen, we know loads about SLT AI. Mark and I are unashamed fans in many ways. But for those people who don't know about your solution, let's hand over to you, Craig, to give the best summary.
Thank you. So SLT AI is a collection of AI tools specifically designed for senior leaders. So it came about when ChatGPT came about. I kind of used it. I thought, that would have been really useful when I was a head teacher and just reducing the amount of time I was chained to my desk. Newsletters, emails, and things like that prevented me going out into the community. But the barrier I found was that ChatGPT actually wasn't up to date and didn't have any educational specific knowledge. So that was my vision with SLT AI. So we originally, and it follows on from Rich, the previous speaker, talking about kind of agile kind of development and having an MVP. SLT AI really launched a year ago as an MVP. It was a ChatGPT that had a knowledge base, information from the DFE, the EEF, Ofsted. So when you came and spoke to SLT AI, you received an informed response based on the latest guidance. It wasn't a year out of date. It wasn't 2 years out of date. So I thought that was going to be a real strength. And actually, as a number of others have said tonight, including you, Al, about net support and Bromcom, everything else kind of was built then around feedback from our users. So they said, that's really good. Could it do this? And you go, do you know what? Actually, yeah, it could. So we've now created 140, I think, tools specifically designed to school leaders, where we've done all the prompt engineering for you. We've done the testing with a range of different models, whether it's an OpenAI model or whether it's an Anthropic model, to find out which gives you the best results. So it's a really kind of low entry point for school leaders. But now, as I said, we've got like 140 tools-ish that help from every day-to-day jobs, newsletter writers, emails, complaints, learning walk planning, to things that are a bit more meat on the bones, 3 to 5 year strategic plans, you know, things like that, and everything in between. So all the things that, as I said, used to keep me in my office for hours as a head teacher, I could now actually get done in a fraction of the time, and then be a bit more present in my school, out working with pupils, parents, teachers, you know, things like that. So that was the goal. And today it's been hugely popular and continues to develop with the leaders that we've got currently using it.
It's a fantastic tool, Craig, and I'm very fortunate to have had a chance to have a really good play around with it for quite some time now as well, and it's been really lovely having the chance to sort of feed into it with you as well as Mr. Kingsley has as well, among some others. But I have noticed some other products appearing on the market that attest to do similar things. So, what is it that makes sort of SLT AI different from that of your competitors?
I think it follows like Lucien with their product. I think we've taken one particular area and aimed to specialise. So I haven't seen another product specifically for senior leaders. You know, as a former head teacher, as a current chair of governors, you know, I'm not too distant away from that workload that you get as being a senior leader. I think where I've seen other aspects, it's been a bit more of an afterthought. I think, you know, it's been and for senior leaders, so there's a bit on the edge, as opposed to the sole focus being for senior leaders. We've worked really hard. I developed a complaints response tool, and, you know, I was really pleased with it, actually, because that's a stressful time as a head teacher. And then when I kind of sat back and reflected before I published it, I realised it was useless because it didn't refer to the school's complaints policy. And actually, if it didn't, then you'd get into more trouble not following your policy. So one thing that makes us really unique, aside from the knowledge base that we feed it, so giving SLT AI all of that information from the DFE, EEF, Ofsted, and a range of other inspection frameworks, we actually use a huge amount of school-specific information. So vision, values, context, their policy information, attendance, behaviour, complaint policy, their school improvement plan, their Ofsted inspections. So when you use the Learning Walk tool, so I'm going to do a Learning Walk with maths, it'll look at your Ofsted report, it'll look at your school improvement priorities, and it'll use that information to personalize the responses to you. So that kind of complaints response tool was a real epiphany. So now the assembly tool refers to your vision and values, so it ties things like that in. So rather than getting a general response from another tool that doesn't have that information, where it might say, you know, you want an attendance improvement plan, so you're going to say child X is going to meet our attendance champion every day. I haven't got an attendance champion. You know, that's not in my policy. That's not how we do something at school. It's really important, because then in the end, I get a response that I've got to spend more time editing than if I just written it myself. So actually feeding that school specific information in has significantly improved the quality of all of the responses. So depending on the tool, it pulls in different information. So I think we are the only tool that does that, but we've recently added multi-school support, so where school improvement partners, executive heads, so you can even pull in multiple school contexts. So you can go to like a Learning Walk tool or a governor tool, and pick my my infant school, and then pick the junior school where I'm an executive head. So that's what really sets us apart now, and the feedback again around how personalised those things have been has been fantastic, really, really good.
Yeah, context is king, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things I think sometimes it's the devil in the detail. One thing that always stood out to me, coming from that sort of background and looking at the technology, was actually in terms of transparency about your data and the data sources that you've got and your data processing agreements, something where confidence is really important right now when it comes to AI tools. I think that's a real differentiator, frankly, compared to many solutions, in terms of how clear it is with a source, as well as, you know, we've always said when it comes to good platforms, garbage in, garbage out, and actually putting the effort in to make sure the system reflects your school policies documents that you referred to, really pays dividends in terms of the quality and the nuance of the details that come back out the other end. And of course that benefits then everybody in the school who might be dipping in and using it for different leadership tasks.
Yeah, absolutely. And equally, just as a very small point, sorry, Mike, it's exactly that. And we're in the early adopter stage. So actually people want a good product and they want a good response, because otherwise they're going to try it and go, do you know what, that wasn't very good, and they're going to go away from AI. So it's really important, I think, that we work to give the best quality product. So on occasion, when people say, can it do this? I say, well, actually, it can't do it well yet. Things are improving over time. But yeah, we're really focused on getting the best possible initial output. It still needs a human eye. It still needs, it still needs my experience as a school leader to critically evaluate the response and tweak. Yeah. But it should have got you a significant amount of the way there, because we've used so much of your information to generate that for you.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
Right, Mark, I think we're in that home straight bit where the most important thing is you've shared quite a bit about what differentiates you and where your key bits are. So really it's about, next steps for you, supporting customers, because many have mentioned tonight that ecosystem, that closed loop, that you want the feedback, you want the ideas to evolve the system. And then I know you're not exhibiting at Bett, but how people can get in touch with you, trial the system, find out more, collaborate with you, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on to sltai.co.uk. I run weekly webinars for people that aren't familiar with the system. I run weekly training sessions for people that do use the system and just want some of my top tips, because it is still evolving. So yeah, come to them free, no obligation on anything, just find out a bit more about how it works and how to get the best out of it. And I'm always keen to hear any suggestions. We're developing more towards the governance aspect now at the moment, and towards central trust teams. So delving into the admin side there. I've got a really exciting tool that's nearly ready for launch, where I think I can share at this point without someone stealing it, but where schools can upload a RAG rated audit and get an action plan from that, because we RAG rate an awful lot of things. So we've made a few breakthroughs today, so that'll be coming in a few weeks. As you both know, we've redesigned the site again. That'll be coming in a few weeks, which will just kind of streamline things going through it a little bit, because one of the reasons I'm not at Bett is we've been going a year, and my kind of head's been spinning for that year, really, because it's gone so quickly. And actually, I've worked with so many school leaders. So, can it do this? Yes, it can. Can it do this? Yes, it can. Can you come and talk to me about it? Yes, I can. So it's just been a capacity thing, but we've got some really exciting development coming up, and I think yeah, it's going from strength to strength, and the feedback's been really good. So, kind of commercial interests aside, I'm just really pleased that it's supporting improve that kind of work-life balance for school leaders and just reducing that stress.
Oh man,
I think that's the goal. That's the mission statement there.
I'm going to ask one more question quickly, if that's all right, given that you're last up, and there's only keeping Katie and Alan up for longer, and I'm sure they won't mind me asking one more question. Although I do know the answer, but it's a product that works not just within England, right? Because I say we do have viewers right across the provinces and what have you. So could you share more about how that might fit? Because you've been talking about Ofsted and also that's not Estin, is it? Or
yeah,
can you sort of talk about that for broader sort of customer bases?
Yeah, we do. We have a number of schools across the world, actually. So we've trained on the Dubai Knowledge. I think the ISI, so independent schools, Yestin, Irish Inspection, Education Scotland, the international schools. Is it ISA? I forget off the top of my head. That's independent schools. There's another one. I forget off the top of my head, but yeah, we've trained it on a number of frameworks. So there's going to be a lot of kind of school improvement that are fairly general and can fit anywhere. But then, like the school improvement based ones need to know your inspection framework. Oh, it's a good point as well. The Catholic inspection, the SIAMS thing. So we support schools with SIAMS and things like that. Yeah, and if there's anything. We're working on the Australian one at the moment, but they're on their summer or their long break at the moment, so that'll be coming shortly. But this has all come again from users using it in these areas, coming to say, "But we work on this framework. Can you do that?" You say, "Yeah, absolutely." Yeah,
that's kind of. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So it'd be important to make it sort of really obvious that it works beyond just England. So thank you for that, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it, and thank you for having me. It's such a fantastic group of speakers. I really enjoyed the show.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And you've heard it from him and from him and from him. It's a great tool. Check it out.
Thank you.
Well, matey, we made it to the end. Imagine
I know,
that.
we have indeed. But so, Mr. Kingsley, Net Support, what is your service or solution? What makes your solution different from others, and how does it best support and serve your audience? And where can people find out more?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. The solutions are best because there's just a cool group of people who've been doing it for a long time and are passionate about their tools. But the slightly more detailed answer, following our Check It Out show format, is a little bit like the layers of Shrek's onion, for those of people that can pick up the reference. On one layer, we provide the tools to make sure all of your IT estate in your school is used effectively and efficiently, and it's always available for teaching and learning. And on the next layer, we provide the tools in the classroom to make sure teachers can shepherd and nurture and use those tools effectively so that the children can access all that next layer of curriculum resources. And around that, because the world and digital content is growing and is outside the school, we provide the tools to make sure we can keep children safe online, whether it's working with applications and resources, or whether it's websites and social media and chat rooms around that. And sometimes things happen on a broader scale, so we need to get a message to everybody in the school really quickly. Maybe there's a notification about an alert, a security threat within the school, so we provide notification tools. And we've got a team of techies that we love that want the tools to manage the inventory, the IT management, the remote control of devices. So we provide those tools as well. So we don't create any curriculum content. We're there just to make sure you can maximize the most out of the technology in your schools and keep everybody safe at the same time. There you go.
Super duper. Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much indeed. And if you want to find us at Bett, you can find us on stand SH50. We'll be joined as we are.
Free gifts, sweets. Mark will be giving away piano lessons. He'll be doing a range of comedy gigs. He'll certainly be doing some DJing. I'm just setting you up now. You've got to deliver all these, Mark.
Hey, I'm an overachiever. But we're joined again this year by, I believe, Mr. Rick Cowell and the rest of the ANME team.
Good point. Yes. Association of Network Managers in Education. Been with us for many years as partners at Bett. Lovely crew. And as you all know, in your schools, if you want to get technology right, you've got to get the network manager and the IT technicians on board to help you support that implementation and get the most out of it. So for us, perfect symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely. So please do come along if you're a network manager in education and meet up with Rick and the team. Different ambassadors from the ANME network are on the stand each and every day, and I believe they've got a prize kind of like visit different stands sort of stamp collecting activity again, as they do every year as well. So come along to SH50, meet up with them, and see what you can find out from that, because as we all know, the network is definitely more powerful than the node. Thanks again to Katie behind the scenes. Thank you to my long-suffering compadre over here who's setting me up for DJ gigs at Bett again. Thanks for that, Al. But importantly too, thank you to you for joining us on this special pre-Bett 2025. I can't believe it's 2025 episode of the Check It Out show. Look forward to seeing you there. We'll be on stand SH50. See you in a few weeks.